Hey guys, tonight we step back into a time so unforgiving, so unfiltered, that even your most rugged cowboy fantasies wouldn't last past breakfast. You're standing in the middle of a dusty frontier town, the wooden sidewalk creaking under your boots, yes, actual boots, not your favorite sneakers. The air is thick with heat and smells you can't quite place, sweat, horse, and the peculiar scent of something long dead baking in the sun. You blink through the glare of the relentless sun, the sky wide and white-hot above you, and realize quickly, you're in trouble. This isn't the romantic Wild West from the movies, where clean-shaven heroes duel at high noon and ride off into painted sunsets. Nope. You're about to face a place where the only thing more unpredictable than the weather is the people, and where your soft, modern sensibilities are about to take a beating. Fast. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, post your location and local time in the comments, let's see who else is lying awake and time traveling tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You arrive at the town of Dead Mule Junction, population, fluctuating. You've stepped off a creaky, soot-choked train with no formal announcement, no welcome banner. The platform is just a wooden plank nailed to the dirt. There's no Uber, no signage, and the station master, if that man even was a station master, just grunted and walked off muttering something about a rattlesnake in his boot. The moment your feet hit the dusty ground, you're hit by a wave of heat that feels like you opened the door to a giant oven. And that's just the air temperature, it's not accounting for the hard stares from locals who've already decided you're not from around here. You're wearing clothes that are probably too clean, you haven't yet smelled like cow, and you looked confused when someone called you greenhorn. You try to orient yourself, maybe find a place to stay, but here's the thing, there's no central information booth. There's a general store, a saloon, and what might be a hotel, or a brothel. Hard to say. One thing's for sure, no one's offering Yelp reviews. And then, there's the dust. Oh, the dust. It's everywhere. In your mouth, your nose, under your fingernails, even in places you're pretty sure were sealed shut. It's part of the furniture, part of the people, part of life here. You wipe your brow, but your hand is grimy too, so congratulations, you just smeared mud on your face. As you walk through the town square, really just a flattened patch of dirt surrounded by sad buildings, you realize the noise is strange. It's not bustling or lively. It's sparse. You hear the wind whistling between buildings, the occasional distant neigh of a horse, and the creaking of an old sign that reads, Doc Kirby's Dentistry and Gun Repair. That's one business, not two. Multitasking was different back then. A man with a long beard and a suspicious squint eyes you from a rocking chair. He spits into a brass spittoon with impressive accuracy and mutters, fresh meat. You smile politely. Mistake. He wasn't complimenting you. The truth is, you've landed in a town that doesn't know you, doesn't want to, and where strangers have a disturbingly short life expectancy. You're the new face. That means either you're a drifter, a fool, or someone worth robbing. Possibly all three. A fun historical fact, in many frontier towns, violent crime rates were among the highest ever recorded in American history. Dodge City, for instance, once clocked over 100 homicides per 100,000 people, making it deadlier than modern-day war zones. But what's even weirder? Historians still argue whether that lawlessness was truly typical or just exaggerated by dime novels and newspaper sensationalism. Either way, you're not feeling great about the odds. You head into the saloon, not for the drinks, but because it's the only building that looks open. The doors swing inward with a theatrical creak. Inside, it's dark, hot, and smells like a mix of cigar smoke, stale beer, and, yep, horse. Somehow. The piano stops. You swear it actually stops. Everyone looks up, eyes narrowing. You walk to the bar and attempt to order water. The bartender, wearing an apron soaked in something that definitely isn't soap, just laughs and pours you a shot of something brown that smells like gasoline and regret. There's no menu. No cocktail list. No filtered ice cubes. Just grit, booze, and a woman named Mabel giving you the side eye from a card table. You try to smile again. Another mistake. You sip the drink. It burns your throat, sets your sinuses on fire, and awakens something deep in your chest, probably your fight or flight reflex. A man with a black hat leans in next to you. You ain't from around here, are ya? You want to lie. You really do. But you nod. He just grins, missing at least 3 teeth. Figures. And that's when you realize something very important. This town isn't going to kill you with a bullet or a snake or even dysentery. It's going to kill you with discomfort, dehydration, and your own poor decisions. The Wild West doesn't come at you all at once. It comes slowly, with dusty boots, suspicious stares, and the quiet knowledge that you are deeply, profoundly unprepared. And it's only 11 a.m. You're still sitting at the bar, trying to recover from the liquid lava you just sipped, when the saloon's doors swing open again, this time with force. Everyone looks. You look too. Big mistake. It's a man in thick leather chaps, a stained canvas shirt, and a battered hat that's seen better centuries. He's got a revolver on each hip and a face carved from sun and spite. And, of course, he notices you. New guy, he mutters, scanning you head to toe. Dressed like a preacher, walks like a banker. You want to correct him, maybe explain you're just trying to survive the day, but then you glance down at yourself. Oh no. You're wearing the wrong outfit. So very wrong. Let's break this down. Your shirt is cotton. Light cotton. Comfortable in your century, but here. In this dry, blazing heat, it's practically an invitation to get roasted like a Sunday chicken. And your pants, modern cut, stitched neatly, don't have room for a pocket knife, a tobacco pouch, or even a coin purse. Your shoes. Leather, yes, but soft-soled. Good luck outrunning a runaway horse in those. See, the actual cowboy uniform wasn't about looking cool, it was survival armor. Thick wool pants in the desert. Absolutely. Wool, surprisingly, protects from heat, abrasion, and snake bites. Bandanas weren't fashion accessories, they were life-saving dust filters, makeshift slings, or emergency water strainers. Your neck is currently not protected. That sunburn is already brewing. And the hat. You didn't bring one, did you? Your scalp is frying. The classic wide-brimmed hat wasn't just for the aesthetic, it kept the sun off your neck, your eyes shaded, and if needed, it made a halfway decent bowl or fan. Right now, you're squinting like a confused mole and glowing redder than a chili pepper. A quirky tidbit for you, frontier women often wore men's clothing while traveling westward because it was more durable and easier to manage in the wilderness. Historians still argue whether this shift in attire laid subtle groundwork for gender norm changes in post-frontier America. But you're just trying not to melt. Back in the saloon, a bead of sweat trickles down your back. You're overheating, underdressed, and standing out like a sore thumb at a knife-throwing contest. The man with the revolver steps closer. You some kind of city fella, he asks, tilting his head. Or just stupid? You smile again. This is becoming a problem. Just passing through, you say. Passing through in boots like that, he sneers, nudging one with his dusty toe. What are those, riding boots or ballroom shoes? You want to explain they're actually your adventure hiking boots, but something tells you not to. You try to back away. He steps forward. This isn't going well. A helpful local, a small, wiry man with a voice like rusted metal, leans in and whispers, "If I were you, I'd get a hat, lose the clean shirt, and buy some trail dust. Folks don't like anything too polished round here." Trail dust? Turns out that was a thing, people used to deliberately get dirty to blend in, especially if they were newcomers trying not to get robbed. Filthy clothes meant you weren't worth the effort. You look like a walking wallet. You rush outside, heart thudding. You need gear, fast. Across the way, a tailor's sign hangs crookedly from a building that's half-eaten by termites. Inside, a woman eyes you with suspicion before pointing to a rack of thick wool shirts. You pick the least scratchy one, still weighs about 5 pounds, and hand over your coin. Wait. You don't have frontier coin. She stares at your modern cash like it's printed in alien ink. Barter or silver, she says. Right. Of course. You fumble through your bag, pull out your belt buckle, it's vaguely silver, and offer it. She squints, tests the metal between her teeth, shrugs, and tosses you the shirt. Congratulations. You've downgraded your comfort and upgraded your survival. But now you're sweating more. It's midday, the sun is relentless, and that wool is cooking you from the inside out. You stumble into the shade, dizzy. You're experiencing what people back then called prairie fever. Not an actual illness, but a delirium brought on by heat, isolation, and, sometimes, straight-up bad luck. Historically, settlers crossing the plains often suffered sunstroke in heavy clothing, especially those who didn't adapt fast enough. And believe it or not, there were actual reports of folks hallucinating entire oases, only to fall into cacti. You try to steady your breath. You lean against a building. A splinter drives into your palm. Of course. You yank it out with a wince and immediately wish you hadn't. It's dirty. Everything's dirty. You know there's no hydrogen peroxide coming. Suddenly, a boy on horseback rides past and yells something about a shooting match starting at the edge of town. You look in that direction and see a small crowd forming. You're tempted to go. Maybe it'll be safer. Maybe not. But right now, the lesson is simple: in the Wild West, what you wear can mark you for death. Every scratchy thread has a purpose. Every dirty sock a meaning. And if your outfit says, tourist, you better hope your legs are fast enough to outrun what's coming. You don't even realize how fast you're walking until you stumble into a patch of tumbleweed. It's not dramatic like in the movies. It's scratchy. It clings to your wool shirt and somehow manages to slap you in the face on its way down. Welcome to the Wild West, where even the plants have attitude. You brush yourself off and approach the edge of town, where a group of men stand in a loose circle, murmuring around something you can't see yet. Then someone moves and you spot it: a dusty field, a row of chipped whiskey bottles balanced on a fence, and 2 men standing 20 paces apart. A duel. Not a movie-style 10-pace turn showdown. This is rougher, meaner, less rehearsed. One guy's missing a boot. The other is missing a few fingers. You want to back away quietly, maybe vanish into the sagebrush, but one of the men turns, sees you, and grins. Hey! Fresh meat. Wanna try your luck? It's not really a question. Now here's the fun part: duels weren't actually that common in the Wild West, at least not in the sanitized, formal way we imagine. Historians still argue whether high noon shootouts were real or just a myth inflated by dime novels and early Hollywood. Most confrontations happened in the heat of drunken arguments, and often ended with one guy shooting the other in the back over a poker game gone sour. But even if formal duels weren't everyday events, gun culture was. You carried one or you didn't last long. Guns were tools, status symbols, and sometimes fashion accessories. And the rules? Unwritten, unstable, and enforced with bullets. You awkwardly shake your head. No thanks. I'm not qualified. A grizzled man with a handlebar mustache hawks a wad of tobacco onto the ground. That didn't sound like a no. Someone hands you a revolver. You stare at it, feeling the weight. It's heavier than you expected. Cold, oily, and somehow threatening even in your hand. Your fingers don't know where to rest. Your thumb's in the wrong place. Everyone is watching. This is going great. You're pointed to a bottle at the end of the fence. Shoot it, someone growls. You raise the revolver. The sun is glaring into your eyes. You squint, aim, and fire. The recoil jolts your arm like a hammer to the elbow. The bullet flies, somewhere. It doesn't hit the bottle. It doesn't hit anything visible. But you did manage to startle a lizard out from under a rock, so there's that. The group erupts in laughter. One man claps you on the back hard enough to jolt your spine. Another shakes his head and mutters, "City boys." They lose interest in you after that, which, honestly, is the best possible outcome. You walk away, the gun still in your hand. You don't know what to do with it. Keep it. Return it. Drop it and run. You decide to tuck it into your waistband like you've seen in movies. Mistake. The metal presses against your skin like a branding iron. There's no safety. There's no holster. This is a recipe for a very unpleasant accident. A quirky tidbit for you: back in the 1800s, there was an actual brand of revolver nicknamed the Suicide Special because it was cheap, poorly made, and often exploded in your hand. It was the fast food of firearms, quick, easy, and potentially fatal. You finally spot a sheriff's office, or what passes for one. A star-shaped sign hangs loosely on a nail above a porch where a man naps with a shotgun across his lap. He's either the law or its biggest problem. You decide not to disturb him. Instead, you retreat back toward the saloon, looking around for any building that doesn't look like it wants to fall on you. People walk with purpose here, because stopping invites suspicion. You do the same. Your arm still tingles from the recoil. Your ears ring a little. And you now have a minor fear of glass bottles. You pass a man bragging loudly about how he shot someone for spitting near his horse. Another tells a story, possibly exaggerated, about a poker game that ended with 3 funerals and a very lucky dog. You start to understand something: justice out here isn't measured. It's impulsive, emotional, and delivered fast. There were attempts to establish law and order in many frontier towns, especially as railroads expanded and families moved in. But in the early days, justice often came from whoever was left standing. Sheriffs, when they existed, were often poorly paid, overworked, and occasionally worse than the criminals they were meant to stop. Historians still argue whether these early lawmen made things safer or just traded one kind of threat for another. You sit down on a wooden crate outside the general store, the revolver now awkwardly hidden beneath your shirt, and try to breathe. You haven't been here a full day and already. You've worn the wrong thing. Almost gotten into a duel. Accidentally armed yourself. Realized the law might be optional. And here's the kicker: everyone else here looks like they're just getting started. No one's panicking. No one's out of place. You are the only person in this town who seems the least bit concerned that someone just got shot at in broad daylight. Because in the Wild West, getting shot at isn't the climax, it's just the weather. You finally manage to slide the revolver out of your waistband. It left a little burn mark and a lot of anxiety behind, and tuck it under an empty crate by the general store. You whisper a tiny "sorry" to whoever might find it next and stagger away in search of something far more critical than firepower: water. You're parched. Your mouth tastes like dust and regret, and your tongue feels like someone wrapped it in a wool sock. That single shot of brown liquor earlier only made things worse. Now your head is pounding, your lips are cracking, and the sun keeps glaring down like it has a personal grudge against your existence. So, naturally, you ask the next man you see, "Where can I get some water?" He laughs. Not in a kind, helpful way. In a "you're gonna die out here" kind of way. "You want drinkin' water?" he says, raising an eyebrow. Good luck. You'd think in a town like this, any town, clean water would be a given. Not here. In the Wild West, potable water was about as rare as dental hygiene. Wells were dug haphazardly. Streams were polluted by livestock and runoff. And if it rained? Most folks just grabbed a bucket and hoped it didn't come with a side of cholera. You head toward a wooden trough where a horse is slurping noisily. A small boy fills a tin cup from the same source and gulps it down. You take one step toward it before another man stops you with a shake of his head. "Wouldn't, if I were you," he says. "That horse has dysentery." Right. A quirky tidbit. Settlers sometimes filtered their water through layers of cloth or even charcoal, but most of the time, they didn't. Waterborne illnesses like dysentery, typhoid, and cholera swept through frontier communities like wildfire. In fact, dirty water probably killed more people than gunfights ever did. You wander into the general store, the bell above the door jangling. It smells like kerosene and old biscuits. The shelves are stocked with pickled things, rope, and strange bottles with hand-drawn labels. Behind the counter, a woman in a gingham dress is stirring something thick in a chipped bowl. She eyes you over the rim of her glasses. "Can I help you?" she asks. "I'm looking for clean water," you say. She snorts. "Ain't we all?" She points to a dusty shelf with glass jugs. "Boiled yesterday. 2 bits a bottle." You reach for your wallet. She's already frowning. "No paper," she says. "Coin, silver, or trade." You're beginning to understand that your sleek modern plastic isn't impressing anyone here. You reach into your bag and pull out your watch. She squints at it, shrugs, and nods. "1 jug. 1 jug. It's not much, but it's heavy." You carry it outside, uncork it, and take a long, desperate swig. It's warm. Slightly metallic. Possibly laced with ashes. But it's not horse trough water, so you're grateful. You sip more slowly, trying to ration it, knowing that you're going to need it more than you realize. See, in this part of the West, clean water wasn't just for drinking, it was a form of currency. People used it to cook, clean, bathe, rarely, and treat wounds. And if someone controlled the well, they controlled the town. There's an open scholarly debate about just how dire the water situation really was in different frontier settlements. Some towns had natural springs and systems of shared wells. Others had nothing but contaminated creeks and buckets of wishful thinking. What we do know is that settlers often had to walk miles for fresh water, or paid dearly for someone else to bring it in by wagon. You sit on a crate, sipping like you're nursing vintage wine. A man passes by and nods respectfully, not to you, but to the jug in your hand. You suddenly feel powerful. Briefly. Then your stomach rumbles. Oh no. Water alone won't cut it. You haven't eaten since, actually, you're not sure when. You try to think of the last thing you ate before stepping into this dusty fever dream of a world, and the memory is foggy. Something with kale. That feels offensive here. Your stomach growls again. A local dog perks up. You try the saloon again, but the menu is exactly what you feared: beans, and slightly different beans. You order a plate. It comes with a dry biscuit the consistency of sandstone and a spoon that looks questionably clean. The beans taste like salt and despair. But they're hot, and they're food. You glance around. Everyone else eats like this every day. No options, no complaints. The local diet was mostly based on what didn't spoil easily: beans, salt pork, hardtack biscuits, and if you were lucky, maybe some jerky. Vegetables. Fresh fruit. Not unless you grew it or paid top dollar for something that survived the trip out west. The water gurgles uneasily in your stomach. The beans land hard. Your body, used to food with refrigeration, preservatives, and fiber, is already protesting. Your newfound cowboy fantasy has dissolved into bloating, dehydration, and the constant, creeping fear of diarrhea. As you shuffle outside again, one last thought crawls into your mind like a tumbleweed rolling across your dreams. You're going to have to go soon. And in this town, there's no plumbing. Let's talk about your teeth. You haven't looked in a mirror since you arrived in this sun-drenched nightmare, but if you did, you'd probably see the signs: dry, cracked lips, a coated tongue, and, though you can't confirm it, breath that could peel paint off a barn. But worse than that is the throbbing in your jaw. It started after that third bite of biscuit, the one you had to gnaw on like it owed you money. Now, a dull, rhythmic ache is building behind your right molar. At first, you hoped it was just a little gum irritation. Maybe you bit down wrong. But no, this pain is alive. It has a pulse. It's a living thing in your face, and it hates you. You need help. Fast. You remember seeing that sign, Doc Kirby's Dentistry and Gun Repair. That should have been your first clue. You find the shack again. The porch leans like it's tired. A rusty horseshoe hangs over the door. You knock once and step inside. It's dark, and it smells odd. Like mint, metal, and something recently deceased. "Come on in," a voice croaks from the back room. "What's the trouble?" You explain your toothache. The man emerges. He's about 70, wears a blood-stained apron, and squints at you with one good eye and one glass one that's slightly off-center. He's got tools hanging from every belt loop, some clearly meant for carpentry, not dentistry. "Let's have a look," he says, already reaching for a pair of pliers. You sit down in what looks like an old barber's chair. There are no gloves. No antiseptic. No comforting music. Just a crow pecking at something outside the window and a sense that your day is about to get a lot worse. He shoves a wooden stick between your teeth. Bite down. Hard. You try to explain that you just want a second opinion. Maybe a rinse. Some kind of oil. But he's already reaching for your jaw. A quirky little detail. In the Wild West, there were very few licensed dentists. Most were tooth pullers, barbers, blacksmiths, or general handymen who had the tools and the nerve. Anesthetics were rare. Most patients took whiskey, bit down, and screamed. Historians still argue whether Doc Kirby types helped more than they hurt. On one hand, they saved people from abscesses that could turn deadly. On the other, infection from these procedures often led to sepsis, especially in hotter climates. You wrench yourself away just as he clamps down with the pliers. "Suit yourself," he mutters. "It'll rot out eventually." You bolt outside, clutching your cheek, teeth intact but pried in pieces. The pain is still there. Constant. But you're not sure you'd survive what he calls treatment. And now you face a new problem. Pain management. Back then, options were limited. You could drink whiskey until your nerves went numb. You could chew willow bark, which contains natural salicylates, a primitive aspirin substitute, or you could try opium. Yes, opium. It was sold in apothecaries and general stores under names like Mrs. Winslow's Soothing Syrup or Godfrey's Cordial. Widely used, poorly understood, and deeply addictive. You stagger into the general store again. Same woman, same stare. You mime a toothache and ask for something, anything, to help. She slides a small brown bottle across the counter. "Drops of laudanum," she says. 2 drops. No more. Laudanum. It sounds elegant. It is not. It's a tincture of opium, alcohol, and herbs. You uncork it. The smell is like rotten cherries soaked in moonshine. You take 2 drops, as advised. The effect is immediate. Your jaw still aches, but it fades to the background. The sun seems less aggressive. The dust in your throat doesn't feel like sandpaper anymore. You float out of the store like you're walking on cotton. And for a brief, warm moment, you understand why so many folks got hooked on this stuff. It was medicine. It was escape. It was survival. But even that comfort is short-lived. Your stomach growls again. The food hasn't moved. The pain's only numbed, not gone. And now your vision's a little fuzzy. You sit down in the shade, and it hits you, just how few medical options existed in the Wild West. If you broke a bone, hope someone knew how to set it. Got an infection? Good luck. Antibiotics weren't invented yet. The average person here lived with chronic pain, missing teeth, parasites, and open wounds that never quite healed. People dropped dead from things you'd fix today with a Tylenol and a bandage. And you, dear traveler, with your soft skin and your tender molar? You are officially not built for this. You lean against the porch post of a boarding house and close your eyes. The sun has dipped slightly, casting long shadows. You take a deep breath. It smells like horses again. Your tooth throbs in rhythm with your heartbeat. And somewhere nearby, someone starts yelling about a stolen pie. The Wild West is not glamorous. It's not noble. It's not even clean. It's pain. Persistent, unsympathetic, untreated pain. And you're just getting started. You wake with a start, not to the comforting buzz of an alarm, but to a distant howl. Not the wind. Not a dog. Something deeper. Wilder. Your eyes snap open to the lengthening shadows of early evening. The porch you dozed on is now bathed in a golden haze, the wood beneath you creaking with every breath of wind. That's when it hits you, you're not in town anymore. At least, not safely inside it. You look around. You must have wandered a little while half loopy on laudanum. The buildings are behind you now. Ahead? Open land. Mesas and scrub brush stretch to the horizon. You see cacti in strange shapes. The road is barely a trail now. And that howl. It's closer. Turns out, the wild in Wild West isn't just metaphor. Let's start with predators. Coyotes, wolves, cougars, bears, depending on where you've landed, your dinner to more than one set of teeth. That howl. Coyote, probably. They're smart, fast, and excellent at sensing weakness. Like, say, a slightly disoriented greenhorn with a sore tooth and no real weapon. You scan the area. Nothing obvious. But you hear movement, a rustle, a patter. Probably a rabbit. Hopefully. You crouch near a boulder, trying to get your bearings. The town's still visible in the distance, but if you had to walk out into the night right now, you'd last about 10 minutes. Maybe less. Because here's what no one tells you, nature out here doesn't care. You're not the top of the food chain. You're not special. And you are very exposed. The sun's setting fast. That means cooler air, but not in a fun, cozy way. In a desert kind of way. You sweat all day, then freeze at night. You dig through your bag. You brought sunscreen but no coat. You laugh at your sunscreen, SPF 50, modern miracle, and completely useless now that your arms are already fried. And the bugs? Oh, friend. They've arrived. Tiny ones, swarming like whispers. They bite, but not hard, just enough to drive you crazy. No mosquito spray in 1875. You swat at the air like a man losing an argument with the wind. Fun historical fact, folks in the frontier used crocodile dung and vinegar-soaked clothes as makeshift insect repellents. Others burned dried cow dung to keep mosquitoes at bay. Charming, right? You stumble toward a patch of dry grass, hoping to find a safe place to rest. That's when you almost step on a rattlesnake. The sound it makes, a rapid, dry buzz, freezes your blood. You leap back instinctively, heart hammering. The snake doesn't strike. It watches. Coiled. Patient. You retreat slowly, whispering apologies. It slips off, no doubt offended. Snakes were, and still are, a serious problem in the American West. The most dangerous? The western diamondback. Fast, aggressive, and perfectly camouflaged in this kind of terrain. Back then, one bite could kill you if help was more than a few miles away, and help was always more than a few miles away. You don't sit. You can't sit. Instead, you walk, carefully, toward a thicket of brush. It's prickly, but it offers some cover. That's when the sky truly darkens. Not a city darkness. Not suburban dim. This is absolute. A kind of black that makes you feel like you've disappeared. You look up. Stars. Thousands. No pollution. No lights. Just endless pinholes in a navy velvet sky. And you're awestruck, for about 10 seconds. Then something moves behind you. You whip around, heart in your throat. Nothing. Then again. A sound. A low grunt. It's not a predator this time, it's a boar. Oh yes, they're out here too. Wild pigs. Mean, tusked, territorial, and absurdly fast. You freeze. It freezes. A tense moment passes. Then it decides you're not worth the trouble and saunters off, snorting indignantly. You exhale. Let's be real, you're a walking buffet with no fire, no tent, no boots tough enough for cactus thorns, and a blood sugar level that's crashing from nothing but beans and panic. There were people, of course, who did survive like this. Trappers, native tribes, scouts, outlaws, even some homesteaders. But they knew the land. They had instincts, tools, knowledge passed down or earned through trial and error. You're Googling snakebite cures in your imagination. There's still open debate among historians about how much frontier survival was luck versus skill. Some argue the true survivors were part genius, part reckless, and part myth. Others say the tales we hear were exaggerated, and most folks simply clung to the edges of civilization, barely scraping by. You start walking again, guided by the flickering lanterns from town. They're far, but you can make it if you're careful. You slip once, just once, on a patch of loose stone. You go down hard. Elbow first, then hip, then pride. You groan, but keep going. Because now you're limping, bitten by bugs, sunburned, sore-jawed, rattlesnake adjacent, and down one mildly sprained ankle. By the time you reach the edge of town again, your shirt's torn, your legs are scraped, and you smell like stress. Someone leans out a window and mutters, "What happened to you?" You just nod, too tired to explain. Because out here, no one wants a story. They want proof you made it back. And somehow, you did. Barely. You limp back into town with all the elegance of a three-legged mule. Your sunburn has darkened to an alarming shade of crimson. Your lip is split from dehydration. And your ankle? Well, it's now the size of a fist and throbbing in time with that still aching molar. A few folks watch you pass with mild curiosity, like you're just another stray dog that wandered in and might not last the night. The town, as always, offers no sympathy. You shuffle toward the saloon, hoping for a seat and maybe a lukewarm drink that won't kill you. But before you even reach the swinging doors, you're stopped. A man in a greasy vest steps in front of you. He's got a cigar in one hand, and his other hand rests lazily near the revolver at his hip. "You owe Curtis $1, he says flatly. You blink. "Who's Curtis?" He shrugs. "Doesn't matter. You sat in his chair earlier." You laugh, thinking it's a joke. It's not. He stares at you until your smile fades. "Pay, or he takes your boots." You glance down at your boots, muddy, worn, and completely inappropriate for frontier survival, and realize two things at once. First, you don't have $1, and second, you're about to become barefoot in a town where the sidewalks are splinters and the alleys are broken glass. This is where the fantasy of the Wild West really starts to fray. It wasn't just about danger from the wilderness, it was the constant, grinding anxiety of money. Or more often, not money. Bartering ruled everything out here. A coin might buy you a drink, but a bolt of cloth, a good knife, or a decent horse. That was wealth. Credit existed, sure, but it was limited to people who had reputations. You don't even have a last name out here. A quirky tidbit, in some boomtowns, especially mining settlements, the local economy got so chaotic that businesses issued their own currency. Scrip was redeemable only at that business. So, if you were paid in Grady's hardware bucks, guess what, you'd better like hammers and horseshoes. Historians still argue about how widespread barter really was versus actual coinage. Some towns had US mint-backed currency flowing freely. Others were so remote that people traded eggs for whiskey and didn't see silver for years. Back to your problem. You try to explain your situation: no money, new in town, very sorry about the chair thing. The man listens, then nods, and kicks your left foot out from under you. You go down hard. Again. He takes your boot. Just one. Then he walks off. That's it. Theft. Technically. Enforced payment. Sure. Justice. Depends on who you ask. You crawl to your feet, sock filthy, one boot gone, dignity somewhere out in the desert with that rattlesnake. You try to limp into the saloon again, but now you're limping louder. People notice. And they don't help. Because in this world, having nothing makes you invisible. Worse, it makes you a target. There's no safety net. No food stamps. No urgent care. No GoFundMe. You're either useful, armed, rich, or someone else's problem. You find a spot at the edge of town where some men are gathered around a barrel fire. They're eating something out of tin cans and passing around a jug. You ask if you can sit. One looks you over. Sees your single boot. Sees your shirt torn open, your skin scorched, your one working eye drooping from exhaustion. You look like a man who's learned a few things today, he says, scooting over. You thank him and sit, finally letting your good foot rest. They pass the jug to you. You drink. It tastes like old corn and regret, but it numbs the pain a little. You ask how they make a living. One says he panned for gold until his fingers froze. Another used to break horses until one broke him. A third just mutters, railroad, and doesn't elaborate. You ask if there's any honest work left. They all laugh. You got hands, the first man says. Then you got work. Might not want it, but you got it. He's not wrong. Out here, if you weren't wealthy or well-armed, your only real resource was your labor. And work wasn't just hard, it was punishing. You'd dig, haul, brand, scrape, hammer, bleed, and beg, and still maybe not have enough to buy a clean shirt. And if you got sick or injured, that was just nature's way of saying, you're done. You stare into the fire, thinking about how much easier everything seemed when the biggest problem was your phone battery dying or your coffee order being wrong. Out here, your job options are limited. Manual labor for the railroads, injury rate, spectacular. Ranch hand, animal danger, high. Miner, lifespan, questionable. Barkeeper or saloon help, drunken brawls included. Or, of course, something illegal. Because yes, crime was work for some folks. Robbery, smuggling, cattle rustling. There were career criminals out here. And you're starting to understand why. You ask the men what they do now. Whatever we can, one says. Whatever no one else wants, says another. Whatever keeps us alive, finishes the third. They pass the jug again. You don't know what's more sobering, the taste, or the truth. You pull your remaining boot tighter and stare at the fire. Because tomorrow, if you want to eat, you'll have to work. Somewhere. Anywhere. And no one's going to help you figure out how. In the Wild West, poverty wasn't a temporary inconvenience. It was a lifestyle. A trap. And the longer you were in it, the harder it was to crawl back out. And now, with one boot, a pounding headache, and zero money, you're starting to realize. You're in it. The fire dies down to glowing embers as the men around you roll themselves in blankets and drift off, one by one. You have no blanket, no coat, and exactly one boot. Your body aches in places you didn't know could ache. You curl up awkwardly on the hard ground, arms crossed for warmth, back pressed against a barrel. And then the cold sets in. Not the polite chill of an autumn evening. This is frontier cold, a dry, creeping cold that slips through your shirt seams and slides down your spine. Your nose goes numb first. Then your fingers. The exposed foot, the one missing a boot, starts to twitch involuntarily. Your teeth chatter. The warm buzz of the jug's mystery contents wears off, and all you're left with is pain, cold, and the distant, rhythmic howls of coyotes laughing at your choices. You lie awake for hours. The wind whistles. A distant owl hoots. A dog barks, but no one cares enough to investigate. Eventually, your eyes close, and sleep comes not from comfort, but exhaustion. You wake to the sound of something sniffing near your face. You jerk upright, heart racing. It's a pig. A filthy, black, half-wild hog, rooting near your head, possibly attracted to the beans from yesterday still lingering on your breath. You wave it off and stagger to your feet. The pig snorts in judgment and trots away. You're beginning to suspect even the livestock here have better survival instincts than you. The sun is rising, casting an orange light across the buildings and dirt streets. It should be beautiful, but all you feel is dread. Another day. Another dozen ways to die. You dust yourself off and limp into town proper, past yawning shopkeepers and bleary-eyed cowhands. The town doesn't care how your night went. It never does. Now, it's time to find work. You try the blacksmith first. He looks at you like you're a housefly that learned to talk. Ever swing a hammer? He asks. You nod, lying badly. He hands you a piece of metal and points to an anvil. Straighten that. If you can't, don't come back. You grip the hammer. It's heavier than it looks. You try. Once. Twice. On the third swing, you miss completely and smack the edge of the anvil. The hammer vibrates painfully in your hand. The blacksmith shakes his head and shoos you out like a cat that tracked mud inside. Next, the stables. The owner sizes you up and says, "Know how to clean hooves?" You don't. He points to a donkey. Try it. But if he kicks you, I ain't liable. The donkey eyes you as you approach with the same energy as a TSA agent deciding whether you're worth extra screening. You squat, lift a hoof, and are immediately yanked backward by your collar. Alert, scanning. His coat is long, brown leather with ornate stitching. He's got twin pistols, polished boots, and a mustache that probably requires its own morning routine. He's a bounty hunter. You know because he loudly declares, "Wanted man rode through here yesterday." Name's Virgil Black. 6'2". Black hat. Stole a payroll chest from a mining outfit in Montana. Shot 2 deputies. No one blinks. A few folks even nod like he's describing the weather. You glance around. Most people go back to their chores. A few linger. But none of them look eager to help. Because bounty hunters, while sometimes useful, are also walking powder kegs. Their job? Drag in dangerous people, dead or alive. And sometimes, they don't ask a lot of questions about which. You hang back. Listen. The hunter's offering $10 for information. That's a fortune out here. Enough for new boots, a full meal, and maybe even that elusive bath. But you're not that foolish. You've seen how this town handles justice. Quickly, sometimes bloodily, and rarely fairly. Instead, you wander over to the jail, where the new marshal is cleaning his rifle with the same calm precision you'd expect from someone brushing crumbs off a coat. Black really come through here, you ask. He looks up. Maybe. But I'm not gonna let some bounty hunter start shooting the town apart over it. You nod slowly. So what do you do? He shrugs. Wait. They always show themselves eventually. That's the thing out here, time is a tool. People wait. They listen. They know that hasty actions end in funerals. A quirky historical truth. Some of the most famous bounty hunters, like Tom Horn, were so violent and unpredictable that they were more feared than the criminals they hunted. Historians still debate whether bounty hunting helped bring law to the West or just added another flavor of chaos. You head back toward the saloon, where people are now swapping stories. One woman claims she saw Virgil Black buy a cigar yesterday. Another swears he rode past her barn. A third says, he stayed in my cousin's root cellar once, probably. You quickly realize something important: in the Wild West, truth is elastic. Stories stretch. Facts drift. And memories are as reliable as that donkey with a limp you hauled wood with. Still, something about the name Virgil Black sticks with you. You've heard it before. Maybe one of the men by the fire. Or whispered in the saloon. This town holds secrets like a poker hand, tight, sweaty, and always with a bluff. The hunter rides out after a few hours, dissatisfied. He's close, he mutters to no one. I'll find him. And just like that, the tension lifts. The town exhales. You do too. But it leaves a question simmering: what if you had helped? What if you'd pointed at someone, wrong or right, and they ended up dead for it? You're learning, surviving the West isn't just about bullets and bad stew. It's about judgment. Knowing when to speak and when to shut up. When to step forward, and when to vanish. As you walk back past the general store, the owner pokes his head out. You want another shot at night watch? You hesitate. Your elbow still throbs. But your stomach makes the decision for you. Sure, you say. Got any more cornbread? He snorts. Only if you earn it. You spend the rest of the day chopping wood in exchange for lunch. The axe handle bites your palms, reopening old blisters. You sweat through your shirt. Again. Still, there's something therapeutic about the repetition. The thwack of blade on bark. The slow stack of chopped logs. A sense of control in a town where everything else seems random and violent. Later, while taking a breather, a young girl selling apples walks past. You dig through your pocket, find a single coin, and trade it for one. She grins, then whispers, "That man the bounty hunter wants. He's hiding behind the blacksmith's shop. I saw." You freeze. She runs off, whistling a tune. You look down at the apple, then across the street at the blacksmith's. What do? You take a bite of the apple. It's tart and sweet and shockingly fresh. And then you walk the other direction. You're not a lawman. Not a hero. Not anything close. You're just trying to make it through another day with both ears, most of your limbs, and maybe, just maybe, a hint of peace. As night falls, you take your seat outside the store again, lantern lit, stick in hand, eyes scanning the shadows. You might not be fast. You might not be brave. But tonight, you're useful. And in the Wild West, that's the closest thing to safety there is. Tonight is quieter. Maybe it's the heat wearing folks out. Maybe it's the lingering nerves from that bounty hunter's visit. Or maybe it's you, lantern burning low, sitting out front of the store like you belong there now, like your bruised elbow and one boot shuffle actually amount to some kind of presence. You've become a fixture. A smudge on the town's edge. Not quite part of the picture, but no longer erased. As you sit there, lantern hissing and stick across your lap like a poorly chosen sword, your mind drifts. You think about the girl with the apple, the bounty hunter, the twitchy card players, and the pigs that try to eat you in your sleep. You also think about leaving. But where would you go? Out there, it's just sagebrush, sunstroke, and more towns like this one, if you're lucky. If you're not, it's bandits, snakes, and maybe another duel over a chair someone claimed 2 years ago and still defends like it's a national monument. No. For now, this is where you are. You hear a cough behind you and glance back. It's the marshal. He leans against the post near your seat, arms crossed, eyes steady. Thought you'd run off by now, he says, tone flat but not unkind. You shrug. Still considering it. He chuckles. Well, you're doing better than half the fools that roll into this place thinking they're John Wayne. You think about that. You don't feel like a cowboy. You feel like a slightly damp encyclopedia entry on what not to do when lost in time. He tilts his head at your stick. That all you got? For now. He nods again, like he's filing that information somewhere between mildly amusing and future cleanup detail. You ever shot a gun? He asks. You hesitate. Not, well. Good, he says. Overconfidence gets more people killed than bad aim. That's a fact that never makes it into movies. Historians still argue how much gun culture shaped daily life out west. Sure, everyone had one, but most folks didn't want to use them. Ammunition was expensive. Gunfights drew attention. And funerals, while dramatic, cost money and time nobody had to spare. The marshal pulls a small flask from his coat, takes a sip, and offers you some. You accept, take a swig, and immediately regret it. It tastes like varnish mixed with cactus tears. He smirks at your cough. Local recipe. Puts hair on things. You pass it back. Like lungs. He grins. Then, just as suddenly, he straightens. His eyes narrow. You follow his gaze. There's a figure across the street, lurking by the edge of the livery stable. Hard to see, but the outline is too still. Too deliberate. The marshal doesn't draw. He just stares. Waiting. You stay quiet. Not sure what the protocol is here. You're just the night guy with a stick and a lantern, remember. Eventually, the figure steps into the light. It's a young man, nervous, thin, coat too big for his shoulders. He looks barely old enough to shave. No weapons drawn. Hands open. He approaches the porch and says quietly, I ain't here to cause trouble. The marshal nods, still watching. I just need a place to sleep. Ain't eaten in a while. I ain't gonna steal, I swear it. You see the way his hands tremble. You recognize the look, because it was your look, not long ago. The marshal studies him a second longer, then jerks his thumb. Hey, pile out behind the jail, he says. Don't light anything on fire. Don't spit near my boots. You'll be fine. The boy nods, grateful. Starts to walk off. Then he pauses, turns to you, and says, that lantern's real bright. You blink. Thanks. He grins, half-toothed. Looks like you're doing all right. And then he's gone. You sit in the silence, letting the words echo a little. Doing all right. It sounds ridiculous. You still smell like damp wood. Your one boot squeaks when it's cold. You're earning wages in cornbread and potential infection. And yet, you feel something shift. Not comfort. Not safety. But belonging. A quirky tidbit, in some frontier towns, if you stuck around long enough, you were just accepted, no resume, no questions. Surviving was the only qualification. Show up day after day, don't shoot anyone, don't owe too many people money. Boom. You're a resident. That might be where you are now. When the marshal eventually heads back inside, you stay out for another hour. Watching shadows move. Listening to distant laughter. Guarding a door that probably doesn't need guarding. But someone asked you to. And you said yes. At some point, you drift into a doze, back against the post, lantern flickering low. No gun on your hip. No badge. No legend in the making. Just one more dusty soul on a porch in a town that doesn't care what your name is. But it lets you stay. And that's something. The morning sun creeps up slow and mean, dragging with it the heat like a quilt you didn't ask for. You wake up sore, sticky, and convinced that every mosquito in the county had a conference on your exposed forearms. Still, you're alive. That's starting to feel like a minor miracle, or at least a running joke. You shuffle down the steps from your watch post and stretch out the kink in your back, only to immediately regret it as your spine crackles like firewood. Someone passes by and chuckles. You sleepin' on nails again? You just nod. It might have been nails. You've stopped keeping track. Breakfast is half a biscuit and a cup of coffee so strong it could legally be classified as a stimulant. You sip it slowly while watching the main street do its usual routine, sleepy, then busy, then mildly chaotic. Today, you're helping the town's undertaker. Yes, that undertaker. The one you've seen hammering together coffins while whistling tunes that probably only play in cemeteries. He's a thin man with skin like parchment and a voice like wind through a dead tree. I need someone to help dig, he says. Old man Clancy finally keeled over. You blink. Natural causes? More or less. He died sitting up in the saloon. Might have just forgotten to fall. You follow him behind his small shop to the edge of the graveyard, though graveyard is generous. It's more like a field with a few wooden planks leaning awkwardly in the dirt and a lot of stories no one bothered to write down. The sun is hot. The shovel is heavy. And the ground? Unforgiving. You dig. And dig. And dig. And somewhere between the rocks and the backaches and the recurring concern that you're unearthing someone else by accident, you have a moment of clarity. This is the most literal part of life here, digging holes for dead men, one blister at a time. The undertaker sits in the shade and smokes. You're not from here, he says. It's not a question. No, you grunt. Just passing through. Kinda. He nods. That's what they all say. You pause. Did you? He blows out smoke. Once. You don't press. When the hole is done, he pats your shoulder, says, "Good hole," and hands you a slice of peach pie in a tin. Payment, frontier style. You eat the pie sitting under a crooked fence, thinking about old man Clancy. You never met him. And now, here you are, eating dessert in his honor and sweating into his final resting place. It's weird. But also weirdly respectful. Quirky fact of the day. Some frontier towns had no full-time undertakers. The job fell to whoever had carpentry tools and a strong stomach. And yes, pie as payment wasn't unheard of, bartering was more common than cash, especially when both were in short supply. Historians still argue whether the barter system strengthened communities or simply added confusion to an already chaotic economy. Later, back in town, you clean off at the pump and wipe down your shirt, now a patchwork of dust, sweat, and pie syrup. You're heading toward the stables when a voice stops you cold. Hey! It's the boy from last night, the one the marshal let sleep in the hay. His coat still hangs off him like it belongs to a ghost, but his eyes are sharp now. I owe you one, he says. You tilt your head. For what? For not saying anything. You could've. You blink. Wait, you're. He nods. Virgil Black's brother. He passed through. I stayed. Didn't want part of it. I just needed to rest. You don't say anything. He glances around, then says, he's not coming back. You don't have to worry. Then he's gone. Disappeared into the alley behind the stable like a shadow in retreat. You stand there a while, trying to piece it all together. This place has layers. Secrets. Ties that stretch in ways you can't see until you're standing right in the middle of them. You realize, with a chill, that this town almost became your grave too. If you'd said the wrong thing. If the wrong person had listened. If Virgil Black had walked back through that door. You return to the porch by the general store. The lantern is still there. The stool still warm from the sun. You sit. Because that's what you do now. Not just because someone asked you to. But because you chose to. You're not a gunslinger. Not a lawman. Not even particularly useful most of the time. But you've lasted longer than you thought you would. And the town, this rough, unwashed, sun-bleached patch of nowhere, hasn't spit you out yet. A few kids run past, laughing. One waves. A woman drops a sack of potatoes nearby and grumbles something about her back. You help carry it. She thanks you. A man you don't know nods at you like he recognizes you. And that's the strangest part. He does. You're not a stranger here anymore. You're just part of the scenery. The wind picks up that evening. Not the pleasant kind either, the gritty, sand-blown kind that gets in your eyes, your ears, your already chapped lips, and probably your soul if you left it out too long. You pull your coat tight, well, the coat someone gave you 3 days ago after remarking, you look like a walking sunburn. It doesn't help much, but it gives you the psychological illusion of being protected. Sometimes, that's all you get. Tonight, there's a dust storm rolling in from the west. Nothing dramatic, no swirling movie-style funnel clouds, just a slow, creeping wall of filth that blankets everything in brown and makes every squeaky door slam shut in protest. You brace the general store's porch door with a barrel and settle into your usual post, lantern dim, stick by your side. But this time, something's different. This time, the town feels quieter, not in the sleepy way, but in the held-breath kind of way. People aren't just winding down. They're waiting. You don't know for what, and that's the unsettling part. You spot the marshal walking down the street, rifle slung over one shoulder, face grim. He sees you and tilts his head. Dust's not all that's blowing in, he says. You raise an eyebrow. What else? Trouble. Very helpful. Turns out, someone robbed a mail coach 20 miles north. Word is, the outlaws might be headed this way, need to change horses, maybe lay low. Could be 3 of them. Could be 10. Nobody knows. But the timing lines up. And in the Wild West, timing is enough to panic. The saloon shuts early. The blacksmith bars his door. Even the kids are kept inside tonight. The marshal spends the next few hours making quiet rounds, checking on buildings, posting a couple of volunteers with borrowed rifles. Not soldiers. Just farmers. One guy's holding a pitchfork. You watch him from your stoop, trying not to feel utterly unqualified to exist. Still, you sit. The only thing you're armed with is your lantern and a very judgmental glare. Around midnight, the wind dies. That eerie, perfect stillness settles in, the kind that makes your spine buzz. You hear hooves. A single rider comes in slow, no urgency, just a soft clop-clop down the street. You lean forward, squinting. The man's tall, cloaked in a trail-worn duster, face shadowed beneath his hat. His horse looks half dead. He reins it to a stop right in front of the general store and looks up at you. "Evenin'," he says. You nod. Evening. Store open. Not right now. He studies you. You the watch. You hesitate. Something like that. He dismounts. Slowly. No weapon drawn, but his hands are gloved and twitchy. The door behind you creaks. Someone peeks out, sees the man, and ducks back inside. The marshal appears like a ghost from the side alley, rifle low, voice calm. That's far enough, he says. The man doesn't turn around. Just sighs. I figured. Where's the rest? The marshal asks. The man glances back. Dead or scattered. I'm the only one dumb enough to keep going. The standoff feels long. But then, without warning, the man pulls something from his coat and tosses it into the dirt. It lands with a dull thud. A leather pouch. Heavy. Money? The marshal doesn't move. You surrendering? The man nods once. Ain't much left worth running for. The marshal steps forward, cuffs the man, and leads him away without another word. Just like that, it's over. No shots. No chase. Just one broken outlaw giving up at the edge of nowhere. A quirky historical note, many outlaws did surrender quietly. The idea that every bandit went out guns blazing is largely myth. Some turned themselves in for the reward money their friends could claim. Others were simply exhausted. Historians still argue whether the West's criminals were romantic rebels or just desperate men on borrowed time. You sit back down. The wind picks up again. And you realize, if this had happened your first day, you'd have been hiding behind a barrel. Now. You were part of the moment. Not a hero. Not a fighter. But present. Useful. Witness. The marshal walks by later, gives you a nod. Good watch. You nod back. No one got shot. That's the goal, he says, and disappears into the shadows. As dawn creeps in behind the dusty hills, you notice the town looks a little different. Not safer. But steadier. And so do you. You're sunburned, bug-bitten, sore in places you didn't know existed, and possibly allergic to every plant west of the Mississippi. But you're still here. You don't survive the Wild West because you're strong. You survive because you don't stop showing up. And tonight, you did. Word count, 1,102. Wind down, 300 words. And now, with the morning light stretching across the dusty horizon and the last of the danger past, at least for now, it's time to let your breathing slow. You've made it through another long day in a place where survival is measured not in years, but in hours. You've learned to sit still, to listen more, to speak only when it matters. To know that sometimes, the best way forward isn't with a gun, or a shout, or a fight, but with a quiet nod and a steady step. The dirt on your clothes and the ache in your muscles aren't marks of failure. They're reminders that you endured. In a time where the world was raw and loud and unforgiving, you kept going. Not as a hero, or a legend, but just as a person trying to make it to the next sunrise. The wind settles now. The lantern flickers out. The porch beneath you creaks softly, like a tired old friend easing into stillness. So close your eyes. Let the dust fade, let the danger pass. There'll be another day, there always is, but for now, you're safe. The West may not be gentle, but even it rests. The stableman sighs. You're gonna get yourself killed, city boy. At this point, you'll take anything. Eventually, you land a job with an old rancher delivering firewood to houses on the edge of town. The pay? A biscuit and some jerky. The tools? A splintered cart and a donkey with a limp. You're grateful anyway. You haul wood until your palms blister. You sweat through your shirt. Your back seizes halfway through the day, and you wonder if it's possible to die of general discomfort. While unloading at a widow's house, she watches you struggle and shakes her head. You're not built for this, are you? You almost cry when she offers you a tin of water. It tastes metallic and dusty, but it's cold, and that's enough to make you want to hug her. She laughs and says, "You ever considered gambling?" You blink. As a career? Beats starving, she shrugs. Plenty of fools in the saloon every night. You don't have to win. Just bluff better than they do. It's a tempting thought. But in this town, gambling isn't just a pastime, it's blood sport. Winners walk out richer. Losers sometimes don't walk out at all. Still, you're desperate. So later that night, you limp back to the saloon and find a corner table. A poker game is in full swing. The men at the table look bored, alert, and dangerous, often at the same time. You watch for a while, trying to pick up the rhythm. A young man wins a hand and smiles. The man he beat doesn't smile back. Instead, he flips the table and storms off. No one reacts. Someone sets the table upright. Cards are reshuffled. Game resumes. You decide, wisely, not to sit in. A quirky tidbit, cheating at cards was common, but accusing someone of cheating was even more dangerous. Historians still argue whether, calling a man a cheat, resulted in more gunfights than accusations of theft or infidelity. Eventually, the saloon quiets. You find a seat near the bar and sip a watered-down whiskey. It burns, but at least it's warm. A man next to you leans over and says, "You look new." You nod. Is it that obvious? He grins. You've got both ears. Most of us lost one trying to prove something. He asks where you're staying. You hesitate. "I've been around," you say, which isn't technically a lie. He points upstairs. "If you can carry a bucket of water up to the bathhouse, you can sleep on the floor for a nickel." You agree before he finishes. You carry the bucket. It's heavier than your remaining will to live. But by the time you lie down on that dusty plank floor, it might as well be a feather bed. You've survived another day in the Wild West. But just barely. And it's starting to feel like survival here isn't really living. It's just, enduring. You sleep like a rock. A stiff, sore, poorly hydrated rock. Sometime around dawn, you wake to the unmistakable aroma of unwashed men and wood smoke. Your back is a pretzel. Your mouth is dry as boot leather. But hey, you're not dead. So that's a win. You sit up slowly, blinking in the pale gray light of early morning. The saloon's upstairs sleeping floor is exactly what you'd expect, a couple of burlap sacks repurposed as pillows, splinters in all directions, and the quiet sound of someone snoring like a broken accordion in the corner. Your nickel's worth of shelter is up. Time to rejoin the fun. Downstairs, the saloon is already buzzing. The bartender is sweeping up broken glass, and a man with an eye patch is passed out in a chair, still holding his cards. You squeeze past him, nod to the barkeep, and head out into the main street. The town is yawning to life. Horses whinny, chickens squawk, and the smell of something frying, probably not legally food, drifts out of a nearby shack. But you've got more pressing concerns. Namely, hygiene. Because you stink. You haven't bathed since you arrived. You're covered in dust, sweat, wood chips, and possibly that weird pink slime from the jerky the widow gave you yesterday. You need water. Not to drink, this time to scrub. You ask a passing man with a towel draped over his shoulder where a fella might wash. He chuckles. Try the bathhouse. Or the river. Depends how broke you are. You're not even broke. You're in debt to the concept of currency itself. Still, you shuffle toward the bathhouse, curiosity outweighing shame. The building is squat, wooden, and smells like lye soap and desperation. Inside, a grizzled man behind a small desk doesn't even look up as he grunts, 50 cents. You flinch like he punched you. I've got a button. He finally looks up. Then you've got a river. So, river it is. You follow his pointed finger and trek about half a mile to the edge of town, where a shallow river trickles lazily under the morning sun. It looks clean enough. Birds chirp. Frogs croak. A cow watches you from a nearby slope. You peel off your grime-caked shirt and kneel at the bank. The water is freezing. But at this point, your standards have crumbled. You dunk your arms, splash your face, and grit your teeth as you lower yourself in. The cold hits like a fist. You gasp, flail, and scramble for footing on the slick stones. Somewhere nearby, a fish jumps, probably in laughter. You scrub with handfuls of sand and mutter apologies to your skin. No soap. No towel. Just elbow grease and humiliation. Still, it works. Sort of. You step out, soaked and shivering, and air dry in the sun like some soggy frontiersman impersonator. A quirky tidbit. Bathing in the Old West was rare and, frankly, suspicious. Many folks believed too much washing could make you sick by weakening your natural resistance. Weekly baths were for the wealthy. Monthly ones were considered ambitious. Some just dusted off with cornmeal. Historians still argue whether personal hygiene was really as bad as the records suggest, or whether travelers just exaggerated the stench in their letters home. Back in town, a few people look at your damp clothes and dripping hair like you've committed a social faux pas. One man scoffs. What, you think you're royalty now? You mutter something about hygiene and shuffle on, now clean but cold and judged. You need to warm up. That means food. Or at least something edible. At the general store, you trade a small trinket from your backpack, a keychain flashlight, for a heel of bread and a slice of salt pork that tastes like shoe leather marinated in brine. Still, you chew it slowly. Respectfully. Because out here, even the worst food is a small victory. As you gnaw, you watch a commotion near the edge of town. A wagon has overturned, spilling crates of what look like canned goods. A crowd has gathered, some trying to help, others clearly sniffing out opportunity. You edge closer. One of the helpers calls out, "Hey! You strong enough to lift?" You are not. But you say, "Absolutely." He points to a broken wheel. "Help get that off." "We'll fix it," then reload. You dive in, shoulder aching, fingers raw. But somehow, you manage. You grunt, lift, balance, sweat, and feel something akin to pride. When the job's done, the man tosses you a can. "Peaches," he says. "Don't say I never gave you nothin', dot." You almost cry. You take the can, sit on a crate, and savor it with your fingers. Sticky. Sweet. Heavenly. You've just discovered a truth of frontier life: every good thing is earned painfully. Your hands are scraped. Your back's on fire. But you have food in your belly and your armpits don't smell like an outhouse in July. That's something. You lean back, peach juice on your chin, and let the sun warm your still damp shirt. Then someone yells, "Stagecoach's comin'." Everyone turns. Dust billows at the far end of the street. Hooves clatter. A cloud of grit and leather barrels toward town. You squint. The coach screeches to a stop, horses snorting. The door swings open, and two men leap out. Coats flapping, boots polished, hats pristine. Easterners. You recognize the look instantly. Soft hands. Clean collars. Confused expressions. Tourists in a land that doesn't care who they are. One of them locks eyes with you. He flinches. You grin. Because now you're the local, dirty, sunburnt, and barefoot on one side. And for the briefest moment, you don't feel like the lost soul who staggered in yesterday. You feel like someone who's learning. Still struggling. Still sore. But learning. Later that day, as the heat starts to rise again, you find yourself walking through the center of town with nothing in particular to do, just letting your body recover from the peach-induced euphoria and the fact that your left sock now matches the color and texture of dried blood. That's when you hear it. A distant bang. Then another. Not the crisp, distant crack of a rifle, but the close, thunderous report of pistols. Echoing off the buildings, drawing heads out of windows and patrons out of the saloon like prairie dogs sniffing for drama. You don't know whether to run or freeze. So you sort of wobble in place, like someone caught between fight and flight who ultimately chooses bad decision paralysis. A man barrels past you, yelling, "Gunfight." Because of course. You shuffle toward the growing crowd, curiosity winning over self-preservation, and soon find yourself at the edge of a loose circle of onlookers. Two men are standing about 10 paces apart in the middle of the street, hands hovering near their hips. Dust drifts lazily in the midday air. One is tall, all black coat and silver belt buckles, a poster of himself if ever there was one. The other is shorter, twitchier, maybe drunk. A tumbleweed rolls through the scene as if cued by a very dramatic director. You blink and, bang. It's over. The twitchy one is down, face first in the dust. His pistol never even cleared the holster. The tall one holsters his weapon calmly, like it's a dance step. Everyone exhales at once. You, however, are frozen. Because you've just witnessed a real, honest-to-goodness Old West duel, and it wasn't a spectacle. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't heroic. It was terrifying. And fast. So fast. The sheriff, who had apparently been watching from the porch of the jail, ambles over to the scene, scratches his beard, and mutters, "Self-defense," before motioning for two men to carry the body away. That's it. No arrest. No investigation. No dramatic speech. Just another Tuesday. You whisper to the man beside you, "That legal?" He shrugs. Depends who's a skin. See, justice in the Wild West was less about law and more about consensus. If everyone saw what happened, and everyone agreed it was fair, or at least deserved, that was the end of it. And if you were quick on the draw, the law tended to bend in your favor. Historians still argue whether the "gunfight at high noon" cliché was real or mostly a product of Hollywood storytelling. In truth, many disputes ended in surprise ambushes, drunken brawls, or simply a well-placed bullet when no one was looking. Showdowns did happen, but they were more about desperation than honor. Still, you saw one. You wish you hadn't. It takes a long time to stop shaking. You sit on the saloon steps for a while, watching the blood soak slowly into the dust where the man fell. Eventually, it disappears. As if he was never there. That's the thing about the Wild West, it forgets fast. You decide to walk. Not toward anything. Just away. Past the jailhouse, where the sheriff is now napping. Past the undertaker's, where a coffin is being hastily hammered together. Past a church with a warped bell and crooked cross. You find yourself near the edge of town again, staring out at the same horizon you stumbled from yesterday. You could run. If you had somewhere to go, someone to help, money for a horse or even both boots. But you don't. Not yet. So, you turn back. Later, you overhear the tall man from the duel laughing with friends on the saloon porch. "He called me a cheat," he says, raising a drink. "Wasn't even playing for money." The others howl with laughter. That's when you realize, this isn't rare. Violence isn't an event here, it's an option. A casual, ever-present undercurrent to every deal, every insult, every look. You think about the pistol you abandoned on day one. You kind of wish you still had it. Not to use. Just to hold. just to make people think twice. Because here, being armed isn't about being violent. It's about being left alone. A quirky historical detail. Some towns tried to enforce no guns inside city limits laws. Tombstone, for example, famously banned firearms in town, which is ironically what led to the infamous gunfight at the OK Corral. The rules existed, but enforcement was inconsistent at best and downright ignored at worst. You make a mental note: if you somehow survive the next few days, you'll need to find a weapon. Even a knife. Or a large stick. Anything to help level the playing field. As the sun dips again, you help an older man repair a fence post. He doesn't pay you, but he offers a bed of hay in his barn for the night. You accept gratefully. Before sleeping, you ask him how long he's lived out here. Too long, he says, chuckling. But long enough to know what not to do. You pause. Like what? Don't get in someone's way. Don't owe nobody nothing. And never, never, make eye contact during a card game. You nod, storing the wisdom like gold. Later, lying in the hay, wrapped in a borrowed horse blanket, you stare at the wooden beams above and whisper to no one, "I almost died today." No answer comes, of course. Just the rustle of mice and the distant howl of coyotes laughing again. Maybe at you. Maybe with you. But definitely without mercy. You wake to the warm, grassy scent of barn air and the unsettling realization that a chicken is standing on your chest. It stares at you with the judgment only poultry can truly master, clucks once, and hops away with what can only be described as smugness. You groan and sit up, straw in your hair and hayseed stuck to your face. Your back is one continuous cramp. The blanket smells like horse, but then again, so do you, now. The old man you helped yesterday is already outside, hammering something. You shuffle out into the morning sun and squint at the brightness like a vampire who overslept. He tosses you a biscuit, hard as rock but edible, and nods in thanks before going back to his repairs. You're starting to learn something important out here: if you want kindness, you offer usefulness first. Talk is cheap. Work speaks volumes. You chew the biscuit slowly, feeling your tooth throb again in protest. Yep. Still there. Still angry. The man glances up. What's your plan today? You pause. Try not to die. He snorts. Fair enough. He points toward town. New marshals comin' in today. Might be a good show. A marshal? You hadn't realized this place even had one. The last lawman you saw was asleep in his rocking chair while a body bled out 20 feet away. Turns out, many western towns had temporary marshals, hired or elected for a few months, often just until things quieted down. Some were real professionals. Others? Just the best shot in town. Historians still argue whether marshals were genuinely effective or simply made things look official while the real power was wielded by whoever had the most guns or cattle. So you decide to head into town. After all, it's not like you've got better plans. And if there's going to be a shift in law enforcement, it might mean fewer daily shootouts. Or at least cleaner ones. You make your way toward the main street and see a small crowd gathering near the train stop. A modest, dusty locomotive huffs steam into the blue sky as a single rider steps off the platform. He's tall, gray-bearded, and looks more tired than dangerous. His badge is dull, worn. His hat has seen better decades. But his eyes? Sharp. Like he doesn't just see people, he sizes them. He says nothing. Just adjusts his belt and starts walking toward the sheriff's office. You hear murmurs. Thought he was dead. Nah. Just retired. Well, he's back now. God help the drunks. You edge closer, trying to blend in. The man passes you without a glance but somehow still makes you feel seen. Like he catalogued you in his mind as non-threat and moved on. This is the Wild West version of security clearance. Later, you catch wind of his first order of business, shutting down the gambling room behind the saloon. Apparently, it's been the source of too many problems. Fights. Cheating. One guy allegedly stabbed someone with a turkey bone last week. You're not sure what's more shocking: the crime or the turkey. You decide to watch the drama unfold from a distance. A few of the card sharks try to argue. One even draws a knife. The new marshal disarms him in a blink and has him in cuffs before you can blink again. You're impressed. And a little worried. Because men like that, they attract trouble. And trouble always spills over. As you wander down the street, a little boy runs past you, barefoot and carrying a slingshot. He nearly knocks over a stack of crates. A woman leans out her door. If he breaks another window, you're paying. You realize then, this town, for all its rough edges, is a home. For people tougher than you. Meaner. But also resilient. There are children. Grandmothers. Dogs sleeping in doorways. People trying to make it. You're not just in a lawless wasteland. You're in someone's life. And right now, your presence in it is neutral. But if you stay long enough, you'll have to choose a side. That night, you're offered another job. Watching the back door of the general store after dark. Seems someone's been stealing sacks of flour, and the owner wants a lookout. You're not given a gun. Just a lantern, a stool, and instructions: shout if you see anything. And maybe throw a rock. So you sit. Alone. In the dark. Listening to every creak and rustle, convinced every breeze is a bandit and every cricket is a coded signal. Hours pass. You start to relax. And that's when someone does come. You see a shadow dart behind the crates. You stand up too fast and knock the lantern over. It flickers but doesn't go out. You grab a nearby stick, heart pounding. The figure bolts, and you give chase. Bad idea. You immediately trip on something, possibly your own foot, and go sprawling into the dirt. The thief vanishes into the night. Your elbows scraped. Again. Your pride. Somewhere under the barrel you just knocked over. The store owner comes out, annoyed. Well, you tried. He tosses you a chunk of cornbread and mutters, next time, shout before you fall. You sit on the step, munching dry crumbs, staring up at the stars. Another day survived. Another day barely functional. But you're still here. Maybe tomorrow, you'll stop tripping. Maybe not. But one thing's clear, the Wild West doesn't get easier. You just get less surprised. Your elbow is turning purple. The bruise pulses like a second heartbeat as you shuffle down the street at dawn, chewing on the last of that dry cornbread. You're starting to suspect the general store owner offered it more as a dental test than a snack. Another night, another chase, another faceplant into the dust. You're becoming remarkably consistent at failing just well enough to survive. It's a talent. Today, though, something's different. There's a buzz in town, not the usual "someone stole a pig again" buzz, but the real kind. Nervous. Focused. You follow the subtle energy until it brings you to the edge of a growing crowd gathering outside the saloon. A man on horseback is pacing in front of them. He's not a local, you can tell by the way he sits his horse, upright.